So something that's quite important, you'll have noticed on each panel you will have one of these labels. They're peelable labels, so they come off nice and easily, which does mean the odd one might have come adrift, but it means you don't have to sandblast them off. They come off quite well. And the information on here can be important. First thing to do when you get your job, especially if you've got, if you had an 8-door run of 4 double wardrobes, you've got 4 side panels that all look exactly the same, but they may be drilled differently. One of the wardrobes may have shelving in and be drilled for that, others may have no drilling. So you need to make sure you've got the left side and the right side from the same unit. So this is cabinet number 2. Every item in your bedroom will have a cabinet number, so put all the parts for cabinet 2 in one pile, cabinet 3, cabinet 4 and so on. So you pair them up properly. And information on here that says unfinished. We've missed a bit of the U off with our dodgy printer, but unfinished left end, so you know what it is. So this is an end that's not going to be seen. If it was one that has got an exposed side, it would be a finished left end and would be finished in the same finish as the door on the other side. So other information on here is for our factory really, so that's the colour. If there's a job for yourself, that will be your name here. Which room it is, if you've got more than one room. This is information for cutting and edging in the factory. The R1200 just tells us it's a double wardrobe. The size of the panel is this number here. And then beech double-sided, that's telling us the material to make it out of in the factory. So the cams that hold the furniture together are knocked in so they fit like this. So you'll see you've got the holes drilled, large one and a small one, and they are for these 2 parts here. You see they've got ridges, so they're a grip fit, so they're simply knocked in, and you tap one end then the other so that you don't bend it on the way in. Make sure it's nice, sitting nice and flush here. You don't want it sticking up because it will cause you an alignment problem later on. The other holes, so on this wardrobe, this is a double wardrobe, there's a hole in the centre of the panel here for a wardrobe leg, and then at either end. These are the leg bosses, and the wardrobe leg itself will push in here. So to fit these, you'll notice that they have an eccentric shape, and they go in so that this flange here overhangs the side, and the reason for that is that that carries the weight of the side panel and transfers it through to the floor. So you don't have it like that, you have it with this eccentric flange overhanging this edge. And again, this is simple to fit. It's got an expanding peg here, so we'll give this a tapping with a hammer, and that is securely fitted. There are 2 screw holes as well. If you want to add some screws you can, there's no need to. Once it's in place, gravity is holding it firmly in place. If you have a mishap, break a leg and need to screw one on, then you can use those instead of knocking the peg in. So once you've knocked all of the cams in, then you're ready to move on to the next step. So that's all the cams knocked in. Wardrobe leg bosses are knocked in with the flange sticking out over the edge. So this is the leg itself. They're a nominal 100mm. You can notice there is a little pip here that'll break off. So what you do is you just have those adjusted just at the height they come really, so they're just sitting at that nominal 100mm, and that just pops in to the leg boss. You can put these on after you've assembled the wardrobes, but while you've got them on the floor you may as well do it now. And then, so you've got adjustment up and down, so you can screw it off and snap the little pips off a little lower. So you use those to adjust the level once you've got the wardrobe stood up in place. So having knocked the cams into the horizontal part, so the top and bottom of the wardrobe in this case, the other part of the assembly system is the cam peg here. So at each end of the wardrobe there are 3, and then a third of the way up and a third again we've got the ones which are for the back straps, which we'll come to in a moment, and then here we are at this end, 3 more, so I'll just show you how they go in. So this is the peg itself. It goes into a 5mm hole, so it's got a thread that bites into that hole. So you just simply screw it in till that shoulder sits flush. Hopefully you do it while you're not holding the camera with the other hand, and do it better than that. So, but the important thing is to get it in all the way till the shoulder meets the board. Otherwise the joint won't pull together properly. So something to bear in mind, just think about where you're going to assemble your wardrobes. This for instance is a left hand side of a double wardrobe which is going to sit in that corner of this alcove. So I've got a double wardrobe here and then a single here. Made a little bit awkward by this interesting fire escape box for this window. The reason I put it here, and I'm going to put the base of the wardrobe at this end, is so that once it's assembled you can rotate the wardrobe onto its face and then stand it up in place, and it's more or less in the right place. What you don't want to do is end up with the legs at this end, and then you've got to stand your wardrobe up and move it 12 foot to get it into the right place. So just think about where you're going to put your assemble your wardrobes. Think about which side to start first. So this is the left side of the wardrobe, so when it rolls onto its face and stands up, left side, right side, and it's in the right place. Wardrobe base here to the side panel. I just like to use a hand screwdriver for this. You can do it with a power screwdriver, but there's always a chance that you'll damage the cam, and that might not cause you too much of a problem, but if you do need to take it to pieces because you've used the wrong part or for whatever reason, if you've spun the drill in the cam and broken it, then you're snookered. So you get a nice feel. It only takes a second. It doesn't take any more time really. So you can see here how the cam comes round, it grips, and then as you tighten it up, pulls that side together. So this is a wardrobe with the base, the 2 back straps and the top cammed in place. The 2 back straps here, or nailers you may see them as on the list, they're held on by 1 cam, and once it's all together they're fine. At this stage it's quite easy to damage and knock them over, so just bear that in mind and don't bash into them. So we will have blown this groove out at the factory, it should be clear, but it's worth just having a look and make sure there's no debris got knocked into that as you're assembling it. It only takes a little bit to make assembling the wardrobe quite difficult. And then another thing that's well worth doing, this is a wardrobe back. It's an HGF 1-piece back. Hopefully we've delivered it with the edge nice and clean, no damage. But there's always the chance that you could have knocked it as you move stuff around, and it only takes, you know, a bit of a bash, and again it makes it really awkward to assemble. So just have a look at that, and before you assemble it, a bit of sandpaper or sanding block, just go along all the way along both edges. It only takes a minute. Just put the slightest chamfer on, take away any burrs if you have knocked it, and it will just help it all go together a lot easier.
So once you've dropped your second side on, you've got to line up all the dowels and cams and get them to drop into place, and you've got to get the back to go into the groove. Can be a little bit tricky if you work on your own, but if you use something like Spirit Level, or in this case I'm holding the hammer with a nice long rubber handle, So you can stand to one side, reach over with one arm, and then use the tool to sort of extend your reach and just work the back along the groove. Make sure everything's gone into place. Everything will fit, and there's absolutely no need to force anything, so don't use any force. It will drop into place, and once it's in place you can tighten all the cams up.
It's really important that the furniture goes together square. Every piece that you've got has been cut on a computer controlled router, so you can pick any piece up and use it to check that something is square. The back of your wardrobe has also been cut on a CNC router, so it is square. So as long as you get this edge here parallel with the wardrobe, you can really rely that the wardrobe is square. So do make sure, I'll just give this a pull, you can see here that because I've just pulled this top along, it's slid that out of line. So make sure that you've got this edge parallel with the top all the way, and you'll know that your wardrobe's square. Because your doors are square, and if you haven't done that, you'll have trouble adjusting them. So to fasten the back on and to lock the wardrobe square, then we do it by screwing along this back edge with these little 1/2 inch-ish 15mm screws. So that locks the back square and also fastens the back. So if you're worried about getting these in the wrong place, you obviously don't want to go too far towards the middle of the wardrobe, or you'll put the screw where you can see it. I do these by eye, but if you want to just come in 9mm from this edge, draw yourself a line and stick to the line. But it doesn't take too long to put that on properly. It doesn't take too long to put the screws in. Work your way along. So once again, single wardrobes going in this space here. Legs at this end made up so that we can roll it over onto its face, and then it'll be easy to stand up. So for joining the cabinets together, for attaching fillers, where you can, it's good to, this is where the hinge plate is going to go, so this screw here which joins the carcass together will be covered. Same at the top here. Down the side here where we're going to put the filler, again the screw that holds the filler, this is where the hinge plate is going to go, so this will be covered. So it's an 18mm infill, so if you come in 9mm you can measure it. I tend to judge where it is these days. So again the hinge plate will cover that one. Same with that one. So down this side you won't see any screws that hold the fillers on. Along the base, again 9mm screw down into the plinth.
So your hinges fit to the door into the pre-drilled holes. They need to sit square to the edge of the door, and a simple way to make sure that happens is to use a straight edge that goes between at least two hinges. In this case, use a spirit level, pull it against this end hinge and the next one down, and that will put them both at right angles to the edge of the door. And then it's important to just position the screws in the centre of the hinge hole so that it doesn't twist as you tighten it up.
So hinge plates and hinges. This is your hinge plate screwed into place on the carcass. You will see that the hinge plate has got an arrow that faces forwards towards the front of the carcass, and the section with the hole is at the back. This is the hinge, it's a clip-on hinge, and you'll see it's got this little hooked shape here. So the hinges will be on your door, and you put the hook section on the front of the hinge, and then you press the back till you hear that click. And then if you need to remove the door, you press a little ridged catch here, you press that in and it'll come off, you bring it off forwards. So your adjustment, if you've got the wardrobes in absolutely level, absolutely vertical, you may well be able to put the doors on and not have to adjust them at all. In the real world, especially if it's a big long run, you may have a little tiny bit of adjustment to do, but very often you cannot adjust them. So if you need to move up and down, these two screws here sit in slotted holes and they give you a little bit of vertical movement up and down. This screw at the back will give you forward and backward movement. You probably shouldn't need that unless if you've got your carcasses in a little bit twisted, but it does give you some in and out adjustment which you may find useful. And then this screw at the front screws in and out and gives you left to right, so that's one you're most likely to use just to get an even gap between all your doors. Okay, so this one is left to right, sideways across the carcass. This one is front to back, and then any vertical adjustment are the screws here. So to clip the hinges on, this full height door, 4 hinges is the bottom hinge. So hook sits in the bottom here, push the back on, that's it, door's on.